I turned 50. I'm so excited. You know, I've heard somebody else say this, and I can't remember where I heard it from, probably on social media, may have been an actor or actress, but something to the effect of you get a certain amount of fucks that you're delegated at the beginning of your life. And by the time you hit 50, you are out of them. There's no more. There's no more fucks to give. And so it really is a place in our life, kind of a line in the sand, where we get to decide from this point forward what we are going to care about. And we are not going to care about a lot of things that we used to be told we should care about, that it should be something that we're invested in. Yep, we have no more fucks to give to those things. None at all. This is the part of our life where we are going to go into it eyes wide open and decide what is for us, right? Now, I say all that and we're laughing and we're giggling, but I know that there's some of us out there that in the back of our mind are thinking, yeah, but I kind of still care. I kind of still care. It's bugging me. I'm a little pissed off that I've put in all of the time that I've put in. I've done all the right things. I've checked all the boxes and this is all there is. And I'm turning 50. So maybe you're somewhere in the middle of those two things. Maybe you're totally somebody that doesn't give any more fucks. Maybe you're somebody that has decided, it's fine. This is going to be the best chapter in my life. Great. Good for you. You are living a centered midlife. But for those of you that are struggling a little, for those of you in the middle or even closer to this idea of, I did it all right. I made all the right decisions. And yet this is it. This is all there is. Well, I want you to keep listening. Welcome. You're listening to The Centered Midlife, a podcast that teaches women in midlife to unapologetically stop silencing their dreams and start designing the lives they want to live in. I'm your host, Dr. Natalie, and as a clinical psychologist of the last 2 decades and a twice-divorced single mother myself, I not only know how hard it can feel heading into midlife, I am living it right here with you. I have taken all the many failed attempts and lessons learned in my own life and combine it with my extensive clinical experience to give you the tools you need to make midlife the best time in your life. No joke. So let's get started. Welcome back to The Centered Midlife. Today's going to be short and sweet. I have birthday celebrations to be part of. Yeah, exactly. I actually am leaving right after this to go out with a friend for some dinner because missed them during the major parts of my 50th birthday. But I actually am very excited to have arrived at this point in my life. But I wanted to share something, and I had meant to grab it, but I forgot. So maybe at a future date, I'll read this to you. But I was rereading a particular journal that I have where I write myself a birthday letter every year, kind of a birthday. I don't know. Sometimes it's like here's what I did all year, a survey of everything. Last year, it kind of struck me when I reread it this year, what a bad place I was in. So at 49, as I was stepping into my 50th circle around the sun, I was in the heat of perimenopause. Every single part of it had gone sideways, hit me wrong, all the things, right? So, and I know many of you are there, but the physical symptoms were pissing me off. The behavioral symptoms were pissing me off. I was irritable all the time. It's probably the only time, absolutely only time in my life where I started to actually understand as a clinical psychologist what it means to have homicidal ideation. And if you don't know what that means is you want to kill people. And I legit did for perimenopause, where it's probably kind of dangerous to be living in the same house with me. I mean, I just at the drop of the hat was irritable about everything. It was definitely one of the most epic symptoms that I ever experienced. I've done a podcast about this. And so I'm going to put the link wherever the notes are for this, if you want to go back and listen to that podcast, it truly is the number one perimenopausal symptom is irritability. And it kind of like makes us all go, what? Huh? Because we hear things like it's the sleep disturbance and the hot flashes and things like that. But emotional disturbance is way higher than any of those physical symptoms, and irritability in particular, because all the things, estrogen, progesterone, all off. And when those are off, then there's like a cascade of about 10 other neurotransmitters and hormones in our bodies that go off. And then all these other physical symptoms then start to show up. So the other physical symptoms, weight gain, hot flashes, things of that nature, are actually downstream from the thing that is causing that emotional disturbance, which is really just the first piece. Like it's the loss of the estrogen, the loss of those sex hormones that actually drive the amount of other hormones, stress capacity, and neurotransmitters that make us feel good, like dopamine and serotonin and all of those things that are like, kind of essential for living, right? So anyway, I was reading this and I was thinking about reading it to you front to back. It was about 5 pages and it really struck me, but I'll give you kind of the upshot of it and we'll make this short today. And the upshot was this. I was like, screw this. Really pissed off that this is where I was. But what I did in the journal entry was just like, I'm just releasing it all. Like, here's what I'm going to do. Screw waking up every day of my adult life already worried that I'm 12 steps behind. Screw it. I'm tired of it. I'm so mad that that is where I always am. But this is where I am. Like I was waking up that way. And this time last year, more so than at any other time in my life, because the irritability factor was kind of playing its part in that, right? I had been waking up that way since my 20s, like literally my entire adult life. Always feeling like I was behind, always feeling like I wasn't going to catch up, always feeling like somebody was going to catch me, right? It wasn't like an imposter syndrome. It was more like there's just never going to be a way that I ever arrive, that I ever get it all done. I'm like faking it till I make it and letting people think that I'm strong and I know what I'm doing here, but just felt like crap all the time. Like I was never getting ahead of it. And during perimenopause, that particular piece was really stressing me out. So I was like, I'm letting go of all that. Like I'm tired of it. I'm laying it down. No longer do I want to be this person. The future version of me, she does not wake up like this. Like I cannot, will not aspire to continue on this path, is what I was saying at 49. And as I'm reading through it, I'm reflecting and thinking to myself, you know, like, thank you, 49-year-old me, because I'm doing a lot better with that. A lot better. So what I would say is I still have that sensation. I still wake up with that sensation, but my ability to notice it, name it, like use my mindfulness skills, notice and name it, and say, this is not, part of me. It is not of me. It is a thing that I'm programmed to say and do to myself, but it isn't real. It isn't the truth. It isn't the only truth, maybe, because truth be told, we're all behind on things. And it's because we're asked to do too much, especially in American culture. And especially if you're a woman, go out there and get the top career and, outdo yourself financially. But oh, by the way, you also should be responsible for all the people that are like related to you. So maybe you had kids, maybe that's what it is. Maybe you got married, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just those older parents that you're, now having to take care of. Right? Right? Like we're crazy. We're crazy what we expect of ourselves culturally, what we expect of ourselves. So to some extent, I think all of us are programmed to have this kind of feeling of I'm behind, I'm behind, I'm behind before you've even started, before your foot has even hit the floor. Like these are the first thoughts that are coming in your head. And last time this year, I was like just whipped by that. Like it would drive my irritability from the moment I woke up. I was losing it because the cat was chasing me around asking me to feed it. I'd be so pissed off. It's a cat that needs to eat, Natalie. Like lay off, right? Like it's completely out of proportion to what is happening when a cat is asking me to feed it. But I'm losing my crap because I can't even, literally wake up without my eyes, looking out at the room and thinking, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I have to do this. I have to do, oh my God, I'm behind. And I'm already irritable. I'm already way behind the 8 ball, but I don't have any of the neurological armor that I've had most of my life because I'm going through perimenopause and all of that has been stripped of me. This is what perimenopause does. Those hormones go down. And rather, as I was reflecting on it at the, end of the year and starting my 50th year around the sun, my 50th trip around the sun, rather last year, than just complaining about it, I was like, I'm done. Like, future me can't be this. I refuse to continue on this path. But there's something that I knew even back then, and I know now that I think is really important to talk about with you. So I want us to think about the fact that about 95%, sometimes it's 90%, sometimes I hear 99%. It depends on the research you're reading, but we'll just go with the number 95. 95% of what's going on in our brain is pre-programmed and is happening outside of our willfulness, is happening outside of us controlling it, right? In psychology, we call this procedural memory. It's the kind of memory that is the stuff we put into habit and don't have to think through anymore. And it makes sense that 95% of what we're doing is in this category because it's things like the body knows how to pull in oxygen and let go of carbon dioxide and make my heart beat at the level it needs to, depending on where my activity level is, and make sure that my cells are doing what they need to do the mitochondria, energy centers and make new things and die off as they need to die off and eat themselves up in autophagy and then start all over again. It's like all of the parts of what make us a physical being are also contained in that. Our nervous system is telling our body to do all those things. But there's also some procedural memories that are more subtle than that. Right? There are things like I know how to balance. I know how to sit in a chair and not slump over. I'm not an infant, right? My body has learned how to keep itself upright. My body knows how to balance for the most part, although it might be losing some of that as I get a little bit older. But it knows how to walk. It knows how to have forward motion. It knows how to have backward motion. It knows how to speak. It knows how to make my mouth move when I'm making those words. And it's never conscious to me when I'm doing these things. All of this is procedural, habitual memory. My body will do it without telling me, without needing to ask me about it, without me needing to stop and figure it out. And the other 5% is what we call conscious awareness. This is the part of our thinking and being and deciding things that has everything to do with what we have decided to put our mind on, right? What we are thinking through, what we are focusing on. Now, here is some interesting tidbits. And here's where that is this 95% or is it 99% of the time that we're in this procedural memory? Because psychologists also know that we have habits in the way that we think, in the way that we perceive, in the way that we interpret things in our world that has everything to do with habit and nothing to do with conscious awareness. However, we've kind of tricked ourselves into believing it is. And that habit that I had of waking up with an almost panic level of I'm already behind, my friends, that was procedural memory. That was not Natalie thinking out her day. That was not me in control of my thoughts. And it certainly wasn't me in control of the cascade of physical and emotional aftermath that comes when you're starting to tell yourself a story that you're already behind before you've ever even gotten up in the day, right? So I knew that as I was writing this last year when I had my 49th birthday. And I knew that again as I was reading it this year. And I was thinking to myself, thank you, 49, because if I at 49 hadn't drawn the line in the sand and said no more, future me can't live this way, won't live this way. And so I will just invite her to tell me what's the next thing for me to do here. I wouldn't have started the small, subtle, conscious changes I had to in order to override this. Now, that being said, I can never completely erase this, right? If you have brushed your teeth with your right hand because you're right-handed for all of your life, can you put your toothbrush in your left hand and can you brush your teeth? Yes. Does it feel awkward? Absolutely. It's slower. The movements are jerkier. It doesn't feel the same. Sometimes it doesn't even feel like we get to all the parts of our teeth the same way, right? So I can change my habit, but I can't make that I've pre-programmed for so many years something else be the way that my body and mind wants to go. So what I've noticed now when I wake up is I'm not near as charged emotionally. I'm not near as anxious or irritable. I might have the thought I'm behind, and simultaneously I'm now reprogramming my brain to respond to that with like a conversation in my mind that's much more gentle. Like, there is that voice again. There's that pre-programmed idea that I should be doing more, that I'm already behind and I need to catch up. Instead of that, maybe I'll think all that stuff will wait for me, right? Like, all my responsibilities, maybe I'll get to them today and maybe I won't. And they'll still be there for me whenever I do get to them. And I just start to gently nudge myself in a different direction with it, which brought my energy to a whole different level around it. Right. So I was writing about this really, the consternation that I was in with this fight in my brain that I had been doing for 49 years. It felt like for at least 30, though, I swear. It was most of my adult life that I struggled with this idea. And as part of my letter to myself, I was like, I lay this down. I'm done. I'm done. And by this time, the same year, a year later, I do feel like I was able to lay that down. And it prompted me to even think about, okay, so what are the other things that I've pre-programmed, right? Because I've talked to you about the fact that other, the 5% of your conscious awareness, it might be all in your conscious awareness, but sometimes we even kind of subtly start to talk ourselves into a story that we believe about ourselves. The story we tell ourselves about, like, why are things the way they are? And we just accept it as real, as truth, as fact, without questioning it. And then it just kind of becomes part of the other 95%. It's not part of our awareness anymore. And I think we need to call it back into that 5% if we want to uncomfortably, like brushing your teeth with a non-dominant hand, start to learn how to do it different and awkwardly show up to that, but reprogram ourselves in a way that is more in alignment with what we want, right? I couldn't have told you what it would have felt like to be in the place that I'm sitting right now a year ago. I felt crappy, like every single day, irritable, awful, crappy, hated it every single minute. But I knew that part of what was fueling that was my own participation by believing the story I'd been telling myself for so long that it just became a habit to believe that it was true. I believed that I was behind every moment that I woke up. And underneath that, I believed that I was less than because I was doing that. And underneath that, I believed that I somehow needed to earn and hustle to get myself out of this trap of not enoughness. And because I wasn't bringing that into my 5% conscious awareness, I was just letting that be my reality. And no wonder I felt like shit every day, right? I mean, who wouldn't feel crappy if they were stuck in that? That's why I was there. So in order to move out of that, I had to put that toothbrush in the other hand. And I had to start to do this a little bit differently. And I don't journal about stuff like that on a daily. So I didn't see the progression. But in hindsight, I can tell you that those struggles, those conversations felt a lot more judgmental in the beginning. Like, oh my God, here I go again. I'm doing that thinking thing again. Like, I was mad at myself and I was judging that I had done this. But over time, even that settled down. And I'm not judging, I'm noticing and I'm naming. And then I'm staying curious about it, right? Then I'm like, I wonder why. Why this habit of all the things, right? So what's happening there? What would make me want to believe that to be true? That I'm less than? What would make me want to believe that I'm somehow more behind than most, or that I am more responsible to get ahead than most, or what? I mean, like, what is going on here? Like, let me stay curious about that. What is driving this? Why is this happening? It made those conversations in the morning in my mind a little bit easier to talk myself off the ledge of. Okay, yeah, I'm behind. So is everybody else in the world, and guess what? Those things will all be waiting for me. And sometimes I could even show up and still do a little bit on top of it and say, and Like, why do I got to do all that? Like, why do I got to expect that much of myself? That seems pretty hard on me. You know what? I'm kind of amazing. I'm kind of awesome that I get to all the things I do get to. I'm a single mom. I work 3 jobs. Like, what the hell? I don't have to hold myself accountable to some sort of crazy standard. Like, what am I doing here? And little by little, that just eroded. So, while it might be a thought that occurs to me when I wake up in the morning, it is not a thought that's like quickly chased by a nasty, icky feeling of low self worth and sometimes even helpless hopelessness that it's ever going to change. Now I have tools. Like now I put that toothbrush in the other hand and I can do this differently. So I want to encourage you to start to do this kind of self reflection. Where is there a place in your life where you're feeling really crummy? Maybe it's about perimenopause. Maybe it's about midlife. Maybe you aren't in a centered space, right? Maybe it's about your self worth, because, of course, on the podcast this year, we're talking about from the inside out, building that sense of self worth. No more are we looking out here for our worthiness and validation. We're coming back to the source and we're saying, I already have this worth. I don't need to build this worth. I need to recognize it. I need to name it. I need to notice it. That's what I need to do. So I want you to be thinking and reflecting on, where in my life is this rub? I would love to hear from you in all the social media places that I post about the podcast. So please tell us what you're noticing. Where's that rub? Is it when you get up in the morning? Do you feel rushed? Do you feel like you're already way behind the 8 ball? Tell us about it. Or is it something else? Do you feel like you're comparing yourself to, I don't know, folks that had kids and you decided not to, folks that got married and you got divorced twice, folks that focused on a career and you decided to focus on family? Are you looking at these different spaces in your midlife and saying, I feel less than, I feel crummy, I feel awful. And then that gets folded into, and I don't have the estrogen and progesterone that drives the other feel good chemicals in my body and the other stress resilience in my body. So I feel even worse about this. And it just feels never ending and hopeless and helpless. Where are those rubs in your life? And what can you do to take that toothbrush and put it in the other hand? To shift gears from believing that to be true in your procedural, habit formed memory of this is just the world that I live in, and change it to a new story. Tell yourself a new story. Redefine what this is. Redefine it in a way that feels like a centered midlife for you, that feels good for you. You deserve this. I promise you. Please remember, you are not broken. There is nothing wrong with you. Instead, some pre-programmed ideas, some stories you've told yourself about yourself and your world for your entire lifetime, they need to be addressed. They need to be looked at. They need to be questioned, and they need to be shifted so that you too can have a centered midlife. Because I am a licensed clinical psychologist in the state of Minnesota, I have to make sure at the end of each of these episodes that I give you the disclaimer that none of the material that I talk about in these podcasts is meant to replace any kind of therapy or formal medical or mental health treatment. And in fact, anything that I offer on my website, my coaching programs, any kind of psychoeducational materials that I release are not a replacement for that level of care. So just take that into account when you listen. This is information for you, and hopefully you find it of value, both as an educational tool and for your entertainment. And I also want to mention that if anyone you know is in a mental health crisis, needs additional help, I always include these two crisis resources. They're available to anybody. Pick up the phone and dial 988 for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And you can always visit their website at suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Additionally, there's actually a crisis text line. So if you're not somebody that likes to pick up the phone, Text HOME, home, to 741-741 to the Crisis Text Line. You can find them online at crisistextline.org. Thank you for listening to my podcast, and I hope that you like and follow me wherever you get your podcasts, and maybe consider leaving me a review. It always helps me to keep this podcast relevant when I know what you want to hear about.